Well, it looks like the Russian Ministry of Finance is having major problems over there. I know they got their hands on the wheel, their eyes on the various screens, their hands on their other right hand on the shifter and the foot on the gas pedal and the left foot on the clutch, trying to control the economy in Russia. But things are going down, even though they raised the interest rates. Actually, they raised the interest rates to a huge amount. I think it was 17% or something, whatever the hell it was. But, the thing is, the ruble's still been tanking. The ruble's still been tanking. So, the dogs are leaving, man. Actually, there's been a major exodus of capital and brain power moving out of Russia. Now, this is not an anti-Russian video. I'm just telling you that there's actions of Mr. Vlad up there on the top, even though he's very popular in Russia due to the tight controls of the Russian media and the propaganda, his actions are actually making it very difficult for the Russian people. What I think is going on is not, the West is not targeting a try to break up of Russia, but I think the Russians are right about they're targeting Putin. And I know there's other theories out there that it's just the what the hell do you call it? The Saudis trying to freaking break the shale oil industry in the U.S. That could be too. I mean, you really don't. It could be a combination of the two. It's really what the hell it is. A lot of times when something really moves really hard in one direction, it's not like it's one thing. It's a combination of things that are actually, it's like not just, it's not A or B or C. It's A, B, and C are true. So it's probably a combination of Saudis and the U.S. policy. But anyway, it looks like the Russians are really off the rails in their economy. And, I think, though, it depends on how long they can hold on. But right now, it looks like really, really horrible for them. And, when they raise the interest rates really high to try to shore up the currency, it still went into free fall today. I mean, it didn't matter. As of December 16th, it still dropped. It still dropped to it's like I think 5-year low. And actually the markets in oil have been going pretty damn erratic. Oil dropped this morning, then it spiked up, and then it dropped down a little bit. It's like all over the place. Even the Dow was down this morning, then it charged up a lot, several hundred points, and it went down. They're pretty it's pretty tumultuous markets going on, and a lot of people are like looking for a bottom in oil. And what I said before, though, I think, thinking outside the box here a little bit, is that I think the Russian economy is, they could pretty much make do without oil. I mean, here's an example. As far as, I'm not mocking this, man. It's a pretty slick idea. I mean, if I had, this is actually the can-do attitude, because, somebody over in the U.S. can point fun at, but maybe poke fun at this, but this is also a very smart, little bit of innovation here, making do with what's available. And the damn thing, the old 1 horsepower's got the four foot drive, goes through the freaking terrain pretty damn well. So, and it doesn't require registration or insurance. So you got to admit that they got a lot of freaking entrepreneurs there in different ways. But it has been very harmful to the economy in Russia, because when you raise interest rates that high, okay, maybe that protects the financial sector, or it's been attempting to. It didn't work, though. I'm surprised. I thought that would strengthen the ruble right away. It didn't. The ruble's still going down, even though they raised interest rates that high. But what really, they're attempting to protect the financial sector of Russia. But what's going on when they do that? Yeah, they could be protecting, say, the financial sector, or protecting the value of the ruble. But what happens when interest rates go high? That's when it kills lending to small businesses, and it kills their domestic economy. And that's really where I honestly really super fault Putin on a lot of stuff, because Medvedev was trying to build up I don't know how perfect he was either, but at least he said he was trying to build up the domestic Russian economy. And with all the engineers they got out there, they could be doing a hell of a lot better. But Putin's just got to be pulling out the whips and stuff like that. I don't know what he's going to be doing. If he can't export oil, he's going to probably export good-looking Russian blondes with nice boobs and stuff. I don't know what the hell this guy's going to do for exports because his oil is not worth that much money. And shale, it's not just the shale oil industry that needs quite a bit of money to break even. It's Russia does. Because of the location of where the oil is, that's another thing, because they're usually in hospital environments. And also, Iran needs pretty high oil prices to maintain, keep them afloat and maintain their subsidy economy. Actually, with Russia, they got a whole economy that's basically off the books, that's subsidized by the government, including a lot of benefits to veterans and things they're going to be going south, man. And the Russian people are, it's because of the propaganda by them, but it's actually this Vlad guy that's screwing them up, man. That's the problem when you have, even if he's not a bad guy, say for instance he's not a bad, make the assumption he's an okay guy, he's a Russian patriot, but when you have one person that has too much power, you always got a problem because everybody around you is yes man, and nothing balances out what his opinion is. And he's made, even though he's not stupid, he's made some really stupid moves that's hurt Russia a lot. It wasn't just, policy of the West. It's him, too. But, I think the Russians may survive this winter as it is because, I'm not cheerleading Russia. I'm not cheerleading USA. I'm not cheerleading anybody, really. I'm just giving you a balanced opinion on this because the Russians have been known to make do without a lot of material creature comforts, and they're pretty damn hardy people. As you noticed, they could be out there in a bikini in the snow. I would never do that in a million years if I was out there in the snow. I mean, I remember, I think when I was more acclimatized to snow, I used to shovel snow in short pants, but I'd always have on a hat. Well, that's what she's doing, too, because that's where you lose most of the heat from your head. But, man, not now, man. I'm like in the South, man. My blood got thinned out. But Putin he's basically going underwater, and he's bringing the Russian economy underwater. But, he's protected. He's in a capsule. He's the elite. He's got $50 billion. And if it leads to World War III, he's just going to go 5 miles underground in some bunker and throw out a bunch of propaganda about the West this. Because you know what he's doing? It's not like the West is freaking flying planes over the Russian borders and, trying to antagonize him. He's doing this. Putin's doing this. And I'm being completely honest about this because I'm not freaking siding with one or the other, but I do notice that the USA alternative media, I know like in major media it's got one spiel, but then you got the alternative media. They give Putin a total free card on everything. I know. I mean, I see Putin as an elitist, and he's screwed up too. I mean, if we got problems over here, I'm glad I'm not in Russia because the way he's got it, it's almost like, the way I would compare the airwaves in Russia, the media, would be almost like having 100% CIA-owned information networks in the USA with absolutely no dissenting opinion whatsoever. That's, if you want to make an analogy of what it would be like in the USA, that's how it would be. And I'm not even against the CIA as a whole, but they got some, I don't know, it's a mixed bag, just like every damn thing, But in Russia, man, here they got the Russians cops beating up Santa Claus, man. Hey, think about it. I shouldn't joke about this, but it's not a freaking nice place to live, man. I mean, the best thing is though, they ain't got the money and the manpower and everything to really lay the law down on people. So that's where people do have some good independence because a lot of people are, they live off the land somewhat too. A lot of people know how to do things on their own. Even if they don't have the money, they know how to survive without too much money because they know how to do things. And the USA, it's gotten to me to be so much of a sophisticated society that people are very much dependent upon the electronic financial system, the big conglomerate Walmart store, and maybe even government subsidies. Now, also, there is problems with government subsidies that are going to be cut in Russia because as oil prices have dropped so much, there's actually a lot of off-the-books government subsidies that you're not going to be able to, they're not going to be able to freaking fund. But, and the other thing is, if you look at the lifespan of Russian males, there's not too many of them around, actually. And, I don't know what the deal is here. This is a Russian woman laying with a big fish. It's probably a joke, I'm assuming. But it must get pretty lonely over there in Russia. And I assume, I don't know, it's probably some kind of joke or something. But I assume, the thing is, I think the average lifespan of a Russian male is 58 years old. I think it's a lot to do with the higher murder rate, which is actually double what's in the United States, and also the drinking. If they were like the Siberians taking shaga every day, they'd be all living to be over 100. But I don't know why they don't do that. But, maybe they don't know about it. Maybe they just don't know about it or don't care. They should be drinking shaga tea versus vodka. But they don't do that. So a lot of Russian women are pretty damn lonely. I could tell you that right now. So it's not a utopia. And people over here are cheering on Russia like, big mother Russia. I'm going to tell you one thing, man. Even though a lot of Russians are pretty cool, the guy on the top, Vlad, is a yo-yo, man. And he's got an ego that's bigger than Bullwinkle Moose, and I don't think his head can fit, even though he's not a guy of high stature. I think he's 5'5", and Medvedev is 5'4", and if you look at the pictures of them together, they're about the same height, which I don't really have a problem with, and I don't think that's anything, because I think some of the smartest mathematicians and best engineers and some of the best doctors were shorter people, which I'm not knocking. But the thing is, he's got this complex about it where it's almost like he has to show himself to be the big man that can wrestle a bear. And that attitude and psyche of his is actually dangerous to world peace. Because that's why you're seeing all these Russian Tu-95 bombers and jets and stuff like that coming and testing the airspace of the UK, doing lots of flyovers in the Baltic Sea. That's what's caused this Sweden to call up reservists. They had the Russian submarine that was over in their waters, and they've been testing the airspace of the UK, Scotland, Alaska. I mean, come on, man. But that's not the policy of the Russian people. But the Russian people are being totally snowed by this guy, man. It's amazing. And actually, I want to even point to something else, because you probably never heard of this guy. This guy was a British banker. His name was Scott Young. It's kind of like unrelated to this, but then again, maybe it is related to this, because the Russians, man, it's like, it's not the Russians. It's like the government of Russia has got an iron fist, man. I mean, like, you never see something like this in near Camp Pendleton in California, where you have a bunch of freaking Amtraks or something run up on a beach where the people are. They don't even run up on a beach where there's some kind of bird egg. They're not even allowed to do that because of the environment. But in Russia, hey, get the hell out of the way and live with it. We're coming through. We're doing a military exercise. But they got an ironclad control over everything over there. But I just want to point out something else. It was interesting that, and this is just my suspicion, this was a British banker. His name was Scott Young. He died, I think it was a week or two ago. He was a British financier, and he had loads of money, and he was dealing with the Russian oligarchs, and he went into, I think it was like 23 million pounds of debt. 28 million. 28 million. I think that's what it was. 28 million pounds of debt. And after his divorce, which he paid millions of dollars for, he wound up falling off one of the apartment's windows, and he landed on a balcony railing several stories below and like broke him up in a million pieces, and he died, right? But what I found interesting was that this British banker was dealing with Russian oligarchs, and I was like, Scott Young. It makes me wonder too, man, because from what I understand, those guys play hardball to the max. They ain't freaking nothing to be playing games with, that's for sure. It's almost like you're on the beach here, and when these tanks runs you over, it's like, oh, sorry, you run away, sorry. You never, if this happened in the U.S., this is a good example, because if this happened in the U.S., I mean, even if they went up on here on the beach and it was like a bird egg there or something that was from some bird and you're messing up the environment, you'd never hear the end of it. But in Russia, hey, we're running the tanks over here. You better move your beach blanket or you're going to get flattened. That's kind of how it is. But, there's a lot of people in the U.S. maybe still know what's going on. It's usually the older people because, a lot of the younger people in the U.S. have been grown up that are in the alternative media have grown up with the propaganda out of Russia Today, which is nothing but a Kremlin-owned media outlet, and also people like Gerald Chooch Salente, which means dumbhead in Italian, and also Mike Rivero, who are constantly telling you Russia's great and the USA is screwed up. Well, the veterans of the USA pretty much know better, man. Even if there might be a little heavier, they still carry that baseball bat and they're going to kick that Russian bear's ass if they try any kind of shit over here, whether it's domestic or foreign. So, but, it's like the propaganda from Vlad is working pretty well, especially even amongst people that have never been in the U.S. military. It's like people that just think they know what's going on because they got it off the internet. No. There's a lot of other stuff. If you go way back, there's a lot of other stuff going on that, Russia has never changed from day one. And they also have their eyes on, I should maybe put this out in a separate video, but I'm going to include a lot of information here. It's like little interesting information. Russia's also trying to claim the North Pole. Now, I know they're going to put, Mr. Boo Boo Polar Bear in prison now because, this is our territory, and you're probably going to go up there and arrest the polar bears and say, yeah, this belongs to Moscow, you're on our territory, and get them out of there, and they'll haul them away in the Moscow paddy wagon, whatever the hell they're going to do. But what's interesting is Denmark has actually just recently claimed the North Pole. You're wondering, Denmark, well, you got to remember, Denmark is Greenland, and Greenland has a continental shelf that goes all the way to the North Pole. But, I almost think this is going to be a moot point because all these people across the globe are assuming global warming is going to melt the polar ice caps and there's like 15 or 20% of natural gas and crude oil reserves at the North Pole. And they're thinking, wow, we can get it now when there's global warming happens and it opens up these seaways and we could drill for oil and all this kind of garbage. And what I'm thinking? I'm pretty damn certain that the global warming scientists got it all wrong. The other scientists that are saying we're going to global cooling for the next 25 years are the ones that got it right, even though they're in a minority opinion. So I think that whole deal is out, and actually that's going to hurt Russia in the long run too, because they're not going to be able to. They're putting a lot of their eggs in the financial basket, betting on building more bases up in the Arctic and Navy bases, and they're probably going to be totally freaking icebound in the future, and whatever the hell they build up there is going to be a total waste because you're not going to be able to get a ship in there. So this guy is like, but what I think is going on, what's really going on though is Russia has a lot of nuclear weapons, man, loads of nuclear weapons, and I think old Vlad will use them if he's really backed in a corner. I think this rat is going to use him, man. That's what I think. I don't know where that's going to go because I hope he don't use him, man, to tell you the truth. But he might. And another thing you might want to be thinking about besides, for protecting your investments, actually a lot of people have been doing people have been hoarding bourbon. There's actually a big bourbon shortage that's heating up. And this was actually reported on the Wall Street Journal that, a lot of people have been hoarding bourbon, and it's causing the price of bourbon to go up. Like I said, I actually peruse a lot of the major media in different areas. And, sometimes you don't want to sometimes people are fearful of the financial system. They say silver is one thing. I know silver went down a lot today, and I kind of expected it because, oil went down. And like I always said, oil is going to lead the charge for silver. And since oil's so damn depressed, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's going to take a while before. But, as fast as it went down, that's as fast as it can go up. And that's the nature of commodities. That's why commodities have always been called high risk, high reward. But, I don't think, it is not definitely the intention of the West to break Russia. It's the intention, I think the Russians are right about it is the intention of the West to remove Putin from power. But they're not trying to freaking break Russia or break Russia up. That is actually totally against the New World Order agenda, because I've always stated the larger a landmass of people under one government makes it far more easy to put them in a New World Order government. Not that I'm for that, but I'm telling you they would never want to break up Russia in a million years. The New World Order would never want to break up Russia in a million years. What they're trying to do is get old Vlad out of power. But it may be a combination of that, why oil prices are going down, and also what Saudi's doing. And that's usually what happens. It's like not one thing that's bringing down the oil prices. It's a couple things. But that could change in a heartbeat so freaking fast, because there's a financial incentive now for Vlad to format a war in the Middle East. I'm surprised he's not doing this. I'm surprised he's not doing this. If I was Vlad and I knew I was going down by, because of, the oil prices, I would, I almost hate to say this, but you know what I would be doing? This is how they think anyway in the background. I'd be making sure Iran has all the military support in the world, and I would not have them go after Israel, because that would get the United States involved. I would have them go after Saudi. And when that happens, and you knock Saudi's oil off the market, price is going to go way the hell up. It wouldn't take shit to knock out a lot of their stuff. It wouldn't take nothing. That's what I would do. Now, I don't know if he's going to do that, but to me, that's the most obvious thing. That is what. And see, I'm not Vlad. I already would have done this, because I know my life. If I was him, and I said my life depends upon the price of oil, my country depends upon the price of oil, Iran would have already attacked Saudi, and that would have been it. That would have been it. And I would have made sure I backed up Iran. It's a strategic ally. And I would have left out Israel, because that would pull in the United States immediately, even though it probably might pull in the United States with Saudi. But if the oil is off the freaking market, immediately prices are going to go up, and that's going to shore up the ruble. That's going to shore up the money that's going into Vlad's coffers and everything else. He might do that, because to me it's obvious 101. I know you're thinking that's evil, but that's how they think, right? That's exactly how they think. So while they're sitting back there looking at all the screens, and they got their hand on the steering wheel, and their right hand on the shifter, right foot on the gas pedal, and left foot on the clutch, and they don't want to use the brakes, they want to keep ahead on the economy, that's about their only option. Because, like, the interest rates, they raised them up, I think it was 17% or something like that, some ridiculous amount. It's not even working to shore up the freaking ruble, but at the same time, they're trying to shore up the ruble in a financial sector. It's not even working. The oil still looks like it's tumbling a little bit more, but that's definitely killing the domestic economy, because who the hell can borrow at those rates? So, I don't know. To me, it looks kind of obvious. But if that happened, I mean, you'd see the oil go from $50 to $200 overnight. I mean, like inside of a few months. And combine that with a cold winter. So like I said, I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm not telling you it's going to happen. I'm not saying that. But that's the way commodities are. Unexpected things out of left field could change the whole landscape so fast you couldn't believe it. In a blink of an eye. That's always the possibility. Then you would see your silver freaking go up really high, and same with the gold, and the dollar would go down. But, I'm not cheering for the freaking downfall in the United States. Actually, like I said, the Russians have seen a major exodus out of Russia, and their next step that they're probably almost definitely going to do, not the stuff I'm talking about with Iran or striking Saudi or anything like that. What they're probably going to do is put capital controls in place where people can only take so much money out of the bank because all the smart people are splitting, man. They're booking out of Russia. And they want to make it so they can't do that because they're going to make it so they can't take that much money out of the bank and split. Because they've actually seen a major exodus of capital and a major exodus of brain power ever since Putin invaded Ukraine. So that hurts him in the long run in a big way too. So capital controls is probably the next step. But I don't know. The thing where I'm seeing is, also, you know, I could tell you a little story. There was a fake news story a couple of years ago where one pipeline in Saudi was bombed by some rebels inside of Saudi that didn't like the Saudi family, and it was a total fake story. It caused oil to go up like $5 in one day. If there was an actual war between Iran and Saudi, and there's been fostered between brewing tensions, and it's going to happen eventually between the Sunni and the Shiites. And so many oil refineries in Saudi got knocked out. Oil would go to a record real fast. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I keep thinking that's going to happen. That's why I got patience with the metals and I got patience with the oil, because that's really probably where it's all going to start. That's probably really where it's all going to start. And I'm not sure what the hell Vlad is thinking, man, but his economy is going off the freaking rails. And everybody around him, maybe the Russian people are convinced because of the propaganda, but everybody around him that's smart, they know what the freaking deal is. They know. They know it isn't really just because of the West. It's because of what Vlad is doing. And you never know. You never know. So, I mean, the only way he can freaking survive, I think, is more military aggression. And you're seeing that pretty damn obvious with all these testing the airspace of, Sweden. Also the submarine, the Russian submarine was in their waters. All the flyovers in near the NATO areas, all the flyovers in the activity in the Baltic Sea, over by Scotland, UK, and Alaska. And, also making statements that we're going to have bombers go from Alaska to Florida and all this kind of garbage. He's trying to provoke something. And if it happens, you'll see gold, oil, and then silver go way the hell up pretty damn fast. But I'm not a Gerald Celente, and I'm not a Mike Rivero, and I'm realizing it's not the policies of the Western elite that are doing this. It's the policies of old Vlad himself. So he's doing it, and he's got the Russian people convinced that, he's a good guy, and he ain't. He ain't. So, anyway, I kind of went lengthy on this, but I just want to bring out some other facts that the others aren't. The others aren't, and I don't think everything's hunky-dory here in the USA, and I know that. I know that for a fact. I know all about the stupid garbage about the Rothschilds and, the bankers and the Federal Reserve. I knew about it for 40 years or some garbage, probably well before some people have been around, and well before the internet was around, and I'm quite well aware of the problems in the U.S. and with the Western disparity between the wealthy and the poor. That's even getting more skewed, but the disparity between the wealthy and the poor in Russia is even worse. 35% of the wealth in Russia is only owned by 110 oligarchs. And that's Putin's inner circle. So, anyway, just want to put this out here real quick because it's been a lengthy video, but I think it's pretty information-packed because there must have been, a couple hundred articles I read, and I just took the most pertinent information out there. But it's my contention, though, that global warming is not going to occur, so they're not going to see Arctic oil be developed, and any money Russia pours in that area is going to be a moot point. It's also my contention that Vlad is looking for a conflict, and conflict will bring up the price of oil and gold, and it may be in the Middle East. And it's also my contention that oil prices did not actually break the Soviet Union back in the 80s, because Major Anatoly Golitsyn predicted that they were going to do exactly that, break apart and defend the West for getting Western technology. And you don't hear that on the alternative media. Actually, Major Anatoly Golitsyn, KGB Major Anatoly Golitsyn, actually stated, I know the book was printed in 1984, but the memoranda, it was a series of memoranda to the CIA from KGB defector Anatoly Golitsyn, who defected from the Soviet Union in 1961. He wrote a series of memoranda to the CIA, mainly in the 1970s, and the last set of memoranda to the CIA was in 1980. The book was published in 84, but he predicted the fall of the Berlin Wall, the reunification of Germany, solidarity in Poland, a general restructuring perestroika, a general openness, glasnost, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union as a long-range strategic deception plan against the West. So I don't think oil actually broke the Soviet Union, and I don't think it is now. But I don't know. I don't know where this is all going to lead to exactly. But if there's a lot more global tensions, and if there is more global conflict, actually the one real gold out there in times of extreme global conflict is black gold, oil. And you'll see the prices go up. That's why I think it's all temporary. So anyway, the Russians will survive and the Americans will survive. Let's make sure our stupid leaders don't survive, because we got bad guys on the top like Dick Cheney over here with cheering on the CIA with doing some bad stuff. I mean, I'm not totally against everything they did, and with the prisoners, but I know sometimes I guess you got to do bad stuff to get out of information out of bad people. But when you have, he ain't a nice guy either, man. No way in hell. But we got bad people over here in the U.S. and there's bad people over in Russia. I just hope these bad people over here in the U.S. and Russia don't convince us, the people in the U.S. and Russia, to go out at each other's throats, because I think that's a bunch of garbage. You know what I mean? So anyway, over and out. Don't look too good for the Russian economy, but I think they'll survive. And I think the West's intention is not against Russia. It's against old Vlad, and Vlad is pulling the wool over the eyes of the Russian people with all this stupid propaganda, and he's got his propaganda over here with Russia Today and all other garbage.